So greetings, hello, welcome. So here we are in the room of Thalia. She is the muse of literature and poetry and drama. So in this room are all the books to do with literature. Now literature is really important to me personally, but also to the world. So in this room you have a very large collection of world poetry. We've got the works of all the great poets of the world, Shakespeare, Rilke, all the classics, Goethe and so on. Also some of the great novels of the world. This is the room where you'll find Tolstoy, Dostoevsky and all the great novels of world literature. But it's also the room of language. I'm very interested in philology and the origin of words, etymology. Those that know me know I'm a great lover of tracing the history of ideas through the history of words. And as a poet myself, I've published over 1,000 poems. I'm very conscious of the importance of the sound of words. It carries the load of their meaning. I'm very interested in philosophical studies of the relationship between sound and meaning and etymology. So I've written about that in my book on the Kabbalah runes. So here you'll find lots of dictionaries. We have dictionaries of Sanskrit, Hebrew, Arabic, Greek, Latin, French, German, all the European languages, Spanish, Portuguese and so on, but also obscure, Hindi, Parsi, we have ancient Egyptian dictionaries, and so on and so on, Chinese, Japanese. And what I've done is I've compiled the first philosophical dictionary of all different languages that I've ever come across. Nobody's ever thought of it or done it. So years ago I was influenced by linguistic philosophy when I was studying philosophy, Wittgenstein and others, who said that language is the key to reason, really. So I asked the question, well, okay, so before we can decide fundamental questions like, is there a God, isn't there? What is truth, what is justice? Let's look at them in all different languages. What's the Arabic for God? What's the Hebrew for God? What's the Sanskrit? What's the Gaelic? What's the Welsh? And then what are the etymologies of all these terms? How can we argue whether there's a God or not before we know that the word God in English comes from the same root as the word good, goodness, and that they come from a root meaning to gather, to bring together. Things that bring things together are good. And that is what actually the concept of God means. It's that force or energy which brings things together. It's the opposite of entropy, which breaks things apart, leads to decay and death. So God, godness, goodness, is the force that unites, integrates, synthesizes, and actually creates life, because life depends on this process of integration, synthesis, and coagulation, if you want. We're made of disparate elements which could dissolve back into, when we die and we're buried, they dissolve back into the earth. But briefly, for our lifespan, we act as an integrating force. That is what it means to be alive. And that is, we can learn all that from just the etymology of one word, God. If we look at the etymology of words like justice, truth, wisdom, love, in all different languages, Arabic, Hebrew, a light is shed on them all. And I think this is, the most important conversation to be having on the planet at the moment. If we look at the Russian roots of different words, what's the difference between Russian and Ukrainian? Or other Slavic languages, Polish, Czech, Slovak and so on. I've studied also Slavic languages. These are really interesting. And then if you look at the Norse languages like Norwegian and Danish and Swedish, the dictionaries for them all are in here. This room is really, really important. Thalia is an amazing muse. I've also got the Celtic languages. As a Druid I've looked into Welsh, the words for God, goddess, truth, love, etc. And also in Scots Gaelic and Irish Gaelic. I had an Irish Gaelic speaker come this summer. And, these are really important, these dictionaries, to really the point of this room, Thalia's message, is that mankind is a unity in diversity. We have all these different languages. They're beautiful, all of them. Not one is better than any other. And the concepts, the ideas are universal. There's an idea of truth or justice in all the languages, whether it's Chinese, Norwegian, Greek or Spanish. Those are ideas, as Plato said, on a transcendental plane, which we then speak in the sound pattern of the matrix of our own culture. And that, I think, is the importance of literature. That's why I bother to write poetry. I've written a couple of novels and a play or two. That's why I think literature is important. And each generation we have these great writers come along to remind us of our universality, that our humanity is grounded in the universal matrix of what it is to be a human being. So that's why Thalia is such an important muse. And, if this is one of the main guest rooms of the Museum of the Muses, so if you ever come here on pilgrimage, you might well stay in this room, which is my daughter's favourite room as well. My daughter, who's doing a PhD in literature at Cambridge University. So anyway, have a look round the room, I hope you realise how important this room is and literature to the work that's going on for peace here. I've also set up a group of poets for peace, and I've been 3 times to the Great Poetry Festival in Struga. There's some of the objects from Struga here scattered around the room, which is one of the great poetry festivals of the world in Macedonia, northern Macedonia. And every year a great poet is awarded the prize there, the Golden Wreath. I haven't won it yet, but who knows? I'm young enough to maybe one day win it. That'd be fun. Okay, so thank you so much for coming to Thalia. Have a look round.